Good afternoon. My name is Inbi Ham, and I am the associate pastor here at Davis Community Church, and I will be facilitating Muriel Marie Cholis's Celebration of Life service today. I ask that even though these ribbons, or what are these cordons, are there, I ask that you come forward, and let's get rid of that so that we can all be a little bit more together. It's a little strange to have such an empty rows over there. So please feel free to move. Yeah. And as we move, I ask that you silence your cell phones if you can, so that we can be fully present to this moment. So I extend a warm welcome to all who have gathered to remember and celebrate Muriel's life and to grieve her death. In each life, there are reasons to remember moments of inspiration, love, joy, and gratitude. And if we are honest, there are also profound moments of pain. All of these emotions are welcome here, and we hope that we'll be able to make space for both the joy and the pain. May the memories shared here amplify our love and bring peace to every heart. This time is sacred, and I invite you now all to rise as you are able for this opening hymn. You may be seated. And at this time, we will be hearing some reflections shared by Mark and Eileen, Muriel and Richard's children.
Thank you, Pastor Unbi, and thank you, everybody, for joining us today to celebrate Mom's life. She would have appreciated seeing all of you, and I am sure in spirit she knows that you are here and you are with us. So, as Muriel's son Mark, she was a big part of us, and she was a big part of your life as well. She was always involved with family and friends, and everyone in her inner circle was very important to her, and she cared for each of you. You've heard, and you will hear, a few stories about Mom today, and hopefully you'll share some of yours as well. You've experienced time with her over the years, and I just wanted to share a couple of my favorites. Growing up in the Cholas household, for me, was about as close to Leave It to Beaver and Ozzie and Harriet as you could get in real life. Dad worked, Mom managed the house, the finances, and the family, in general, keeping us on track and on time. And for those of you who have met with them recently, you know that was a big challenge. Most of my memories are strongest after we moved to Woodland, being part of the family holidays, visits together, as well as the family vacations. Mom seemed to make a lot of friends after moving to Woodland, and after we rented a house for a couple of years, everyone was excited to design and build a brand new house that turns out everybody would live in for over 50 years. I'm not sure they expected, to be there for that long, but when you pick the right spot and you craft it exactly the way that you want, there's no reason to leave. In addition to being an amazing cook and baker, Mom could sew and knit almost anything. Wanting to make the finances stretch as far as possible meant doing all of your own cooking and sewing. Those extra dollars saved meant we could take family vacations and potentially buy something special for the family or one of us kids, and that was appreciated. One of the design elements of the new house had to be a dedicated sewing room. All of the shelves and the layout was perfect for Mom to work on her projects, and she made great use of that space for the entire time that they lived in the house. Hopefully the new people that are in there are getting the same advantages out of that. Family, as you can see here, and we have great representation from all sides of the family as well as good friends. Family was very important to Mom. She was raised with a very large extended family, and she was very close with her two sisters and all of their families. Holidays were always spent together with as many family members as could be gathered, and multiple reunions with up to 80 people happened every few summers for a number of years. We'll share some stills and video in a little bit, and you'll see some of those. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, and other holidays were always special. And Mom made each holiday memorable with all the decorations, cookies especially. I think everybody that spent Christmas or Thanksgiving or another holiday will remember Mom's cookies. Cooking and meals shared together. Mom would always do her best to help anyone if she could. I had a paper route when I was 10 years old, and sometimes when it would rain, not like it has been the last few weeks, but it would rain. She would get up with me at 4 or 5 a.m. and help me put plastic on all the papers. Does anybody still actually get a physical paper these days? My job's been replaced. So she would drive me around in the car so I wouldn't get completely soaked. I would sit in the back seat and she would zigzag through the neighborhood and I would throw the papers out. And I'm sure if there was anybody behind us, it looked a little wacky, but it was most appreciative. Mom was also supportive of any crazy hobbies or ideas that we had. I liked to tinker with electronics, and since Dad was working during the day, Mom would be nice enough to drive me over to Sacramento, which that was a long haul at that time, to get electronic parts and pieces for whatever I was trying to build or repair. And remember, this was before Waze and Thomas Guides and other things like that. So I remember having an address for one of the stores that we were going to, and I think we stopped 3 or 4 times to ask for directions, and a couple of times in rather sketchy neighborhoods. But we got there, we got what we needed, and we got back, so it was all an adventure. One of the very few times I saw her get a little upset was when I was testing something I was building. And when I turned it on, well, I plugged it in, I turned it on, and it made quite a large boom and tripped a couple of circuit breakers in the house. So obviously somebody hadn't wired something correctly. Not sure whose fault that could be. Once Eileen and I were out of the house and on our own, I think Mom missed the responsibility of taking care of others and decided to return to work. She had previously worked to put Dad through college and seminary, but stayed home to raise us once he went to work full-time. Now it was time to restart her working career. She chose Gibson School in Woodland, where both Eileen and I attended elementary school. I think working really invigorated her, and she enjoyed the interaction and the friendship of the students, the teachers, and the administrators. I know that she had become lifelong friends with many of them, and they interacted quite often on social occasions. That became a big focus of her day, and everybody was like a second family there. Mom really also enjoyed getting together with her friends for bridge and bunco, as well as the trips that they went on together with Sports Leisure Group and the lunches and dinners with friends and colleagues. Unfortunately, the last few years, Mom's dementia took the Mom we all knew and loved and changed and erased many of her memories, her thoughts, and her cognitive abilities for her day-to-day life. She was still physically the same happy, curious, interesting person that we've loved all these years, but with some limitations and capabilities. It was always a challenge to determine and adapt to the person who you would visit on those trips when we saw her. Would she recognize us? And if so, who would she be, and who would she think you were? I remember a number of years ago that she was doing her best to subtly tell us that this was happening, and that each of us in the family needed to assume some of the duties that she had been in charge of all these years so that Mom and Dad could continue living the best lives possible. We all knew that Mom really managed so many things. Once she wasn't able to do that effectively, we all found out how much of a truly amazing job and a person that she had been and what she had been doing all those years. Mom was an amazing mother who was always loving and supportive. I'd like for us all to remember her with any one of a number of great things that she did, what she said or worked on together, and her very infectious smile and the baking smell of one of her apple pies, cinnamon rolls, or her famous lasagna. She and I also shared a trait that I continue to practice today. It was her love of sweets, especially ice cream and cake. That would bring the biggest smile to her face right up even until the end. It's that smile that I will always remember her by. Thank you.
I wish I were as tall as my brother. Thank you again all for joining us today, as I know Mom is with us, and I know she feels the love and support of everybody that's here, as well as the family. So I just wanted to add a couple things to what my brother said. And she was always supportive and happy and optimistic. And I feel that we received the glasses half full from her as well as my father. And that is something that has helped us in our lives. She loved animals, especially cats and dogs, which is something that I share with her. Family and friends, as my brother said, meant everything. She made everybody feel special, and we were so fortunate to grow up in the neighborhood where we lived for the house with 50 years, with all our neighborhood friends, as well as all of our Gibson School alumni, which I know she was very close to everybody and remained as long as she could remember. I inherited my mother's love of fashion, animals, and travel. So she would really like my outfit today because it's very colorful. And I didn't have my jacket on because it's too warm in here, but that is something that she would like to have. She used to sew us matching outfits when I was younger, so I had very colorful matching outfits with her, such as jumpers, rompers, and anytime as I got older I wanted to purchase more things, she would say I could make that. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you can't make everything and you can't make it fast enough. So I think I inherited it with my mom, kept us in line more, as we found out with my dad, with my mom not taking care of the finances, that my dad, I definitely inherited from him the shopping victim habit, where it only hurts the first time you purchase and then you don't care how much it costs. And I believe mom was very fashionable, but she was very good at going about curbing herself on that, where I feel like I'm part of my dad now, where I don't. I am always reminded of mom as I cook her famous recipes for California casserole, chicken enchiladas, and tacos. I miss her baked goods. I'm not a baker, but fortunately, family members have taken those recipes and they show up at all of our family functions and celebrations. All memories of mom are great, as my brother said. My last memory of her, as she was passing, she had a smile on her face, she was laughing, and she squeezed my hand 4 times, so I knew she was with us. I told her how much she was loved and will be missed, but it was time for her to go on to a better life. She understood. I thanked her for giving us a blissful life. Thank you.
So I'd like to read a scripture, Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You bring me to green pastures for rest and lead me beside still waters. Renewing my spirit, you restore my soul. You lead me in the path of goodness to follow love's way. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I am not afraid. For you are ever with me, your rod and your staff, they guide me. They give me strength and comfort. You prepare a table before me. In the presence of all my fears, you bless me with oil. My cup overflows. Surely, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the heart of the beloved forever. Amen. There were several reasons why the 23rd Psalm came to mind as I reflected on the stories of Muriel's life. Muriel sounds like a gentle, quiet shepherd that people could lean on in good times and bad. It is my understanding that she was beloved at Gibson Elementary as someone who went above and beyond her job description as a secretary. If someone forgot lunch or needed a ride, people looked to her when they needed help. As her school went through several transitions with different principals, she was a constant source of strength and comfort for the students, teachers, parents, and colleagues. She was street smart, savvy, calm, and collected in times of emergency, which probably happened a lot in an elementary school. To quote her children, she was amazing in a quiet way. She knew where the green pastures were and how to lead anxious hearts to still waters. Her constant presence was a blessing and a balm to those who knew her. As you have heard, she was also the queen of hospitality, who made incredibly amazing baked goods. Neighbors, I hear, still request her pudding pie recipe. Family and friends continue her culinary legacy. And during holiday gatherings, she showed her love by baking holiday-shaped cookies in the form of jingle bells, Christmas trees, candy cane cookies, and sugar cookies. She would make 4 or 5 different types of cookies and tailor her baking production to meet each person's interests. Has anyone here tasted her cookies? All right. Whether it was a holiday gathering or swimming on a beach in Lake Almanor, she was always behind the scenes, preparing a table of generosity and overflowing love. I usually try to keep things real in memorial services and ask families, what were some of the pet peeves that you had? Since no one is perfect. And so I asked anything that you found annoying about Muriel. And I was amazed when Eileen, Mark, and Richard genuinely struggled to find something. I mean, if your family struggles to remember your shortcomings, I think you have lived a good life. Richard said she was perfect. She was perfect, she was fantastic from the beginning. Eileen said, when I look back, my parents were the best parents in the world. Here's a story that illustrated this wonderful partnership between Muriel and Richard. One time, Richard came home to find Mark watching TV in a cape. He was 5 years old, in case any of you were wondering and alarmed. Muriel laughed and was a little concerned as she told Richard, he wants to get up on the roof to jump off and fly. Apparently, Mark felt inspired to fly off the roof like a superhero. Richard says, well, why don't we let him do it? And she says, what do you mean? Well, we'll get a ladder and put him on the roof and I'll come down and catch him. We'll tell him, look, you sort of can do that, and then you sort of can't. So just in case it doesn't work, I'll catch you. And so they supported little Mark's dream of flying off the roof. Mark took off, flew for a while, and landed in his dad's arms. And the story is that Mark has been jumping off roofs ever since. All jokes aside, Muriel and Richard made a wonderful team. They let Mark and Eileen learn how to fly and learn for themselves. I quote Mark here, as long as we didn't do too many stupid things. Not only did Muriel support her children, but she also supported Richard's big dreams. When Richard dreamt big, Muriel kept him grounded and focused as he pursued his dreams. As Mark shared, Muriel put Richard through college and seminary. And ever since they met on a beach in Santa Cruz, they made a great team. They were together for 82 years and married for 77. She loved traveling with Richard to places like China, Greece, Poland, and the Netherlands, to name a few. Muriel lived her life in such a way to help people taste the joys of life. to dream big, and to test their ability to fly. Her life reminds us of the psalmist's words, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of all my fears. You bless me with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life." Today we remember Muriel and how she was a gentle, strong shepherd who guided people to green pastures, still waters. We remember her calm, supportive presence in the presence of any fears, and how she loved to prepare a table with cookies, pies, casseroles, and lasagna. May Muriel's goodness and love follow us all the days of our lives and dwell in our hearts forever. Amen. Now we will listen to a song that Muriel and Richard used to enjoy listening to together.
Grootste fanfare van Nederland. Dat is mooi, hè?
At this time, I'd like to invite all of you, any of you who would like to share your own memories of Muriel, to raise your hand and I will come to you and pass the mic to you. We just ask that you try to keep it brief so that as many people who would like to share can share.
Hello, everybody. My name is Stephanie, and I am Muriel's niece, the daughter of her youngest sister, Joanne. And a few things come to mind when I think of my Aunt Muriel. She was a kind, sweet, and loving woman, quiet until you got to know her. And she always smiled and had the cutest laugh, which always brought a smile to my face and brings one to me now. Childhood memories of wonderful Christmas cookies, as we talked about, which she would make for the family and we would all devour. And of course, she always had a little brown lunch bag of burnt cookies that she put aside for my mom, who for some reason loved burnt cookies. I also recall her making us the cutest Easter bunny baskets out of brown paper bags. They were the best, and as a child, I always looked forward to getting one from her. However, I think the best thing my aunt gave and showed not only me, but our entire family, was the importance of love for family. It was exemplified with her parents and her sisters, and then expanded upon when she married my Uncle Dick, and they had their own children, Mark and Eileen. She and my uncle showed us what a loving and caring marriage looked like. A true love story. My uncle was a good and loving husband to my aunt, and she to him, both to the very end. I will miss you, Aunt Muriel. Thank you for your love. I have no doubt my mom, my Aunt Dorothy, Grandma and Grandpa were there to welcome her upon her arrival to heaven. And she more than likely received a big bear hug from my grandpa, her father, which he was always known to give and which you could never avoid despite trying to get past him. Until we meet again, I love you. God bless.
My name is Christine, and I worked with Dick over 20 years ago. And every once in a while, we would have potlucks at the office, and we would all look forward to what Muriel was making for Dick to bring to the potluck. And there was often requests of recipes, etc. That's a happy, happy memory. And I still have some of those recipes.
You said it, the queen of hospitality. I'm Steve Cholas, Aunt Muriel. I'm going to miss her. And so much has been said about her cooking and baking, and it's all true. I would always look forward to a particular kind of cookie that only she made, and it was a stained glass window cookie, as I'm looking at the stained glass. And it was made with, like, I don't know, at Brock's. You know, you used to get you could go to the grocery store and get little balls of candy, like Jolly Ranchers kind of thing. And she'd melt them down and then make a little dough border around it so it looked like a stained glass. And I always liked them because I could look through them. And then I could eat them. And we had so many wonderful times together on Thanksgivings, driving up, as we did today, to Woodland from Pleasanton. And I'll miss her very much. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shelley Newman. My husband, Jim, and I have been friends with Dick and Muriel ever since we joined the church here over 20 years ago. We used to keep them from speeding down 113 by driving them to church safely. I think one of the things that I will always find endearing from Muriel and a life lesson is that she found joy in the simplest things. We'd come and visit them, and she would, in your house in Woodland, and she would be in the living room, and then she'd stare out the big window into the backyard, and then we'd open the door and step out on the back porch, and she would just be enthralled with the birds that she was leaving seed out for, and she could watch them for 10, 15 minutes, and just the pure joy that she got out of those simple things is a nice reminder that we should all do that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Charisse, and I work at Kaiser, and Dick and Muriel have been coming to see me for years, and they are the huggers. And I am going to miss her so much. Every Thursday, she would come and see me, and she'd stand at the door of my office, and if I was with a patient or anybody, I'd say, "Excuse me," and I'd go and hug her. She'd come in every week for a hug while Dick was at his appointments. And the day that she didn't come in, that was a really hard day for us. And she was wonderful. And you're wonderful, Dick.
I can vouch for the hugging. We had a tradition. We came up with a tradition in this church where when we go to pass the peace, may the peace of Christ be with you, and then they respond, also with you. Well, those of us who sat in the front always got hugs. And it got to the point where you knew if you wanted a hug, you come up and sit in the front of the church because you don't have time to get from the back to get up there and hug everybody. But they were the best huggers in the church.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your stories.
I was just the most amazing. Everything just was, when I say she was perfect, she was. That's why I miss her so much. And I didn't have to say, can we go do this or do that? It was just automatic. The only thing when we first met, we had all the kids in San Jose would go to Santa Cruz for Easter vacation. And I went down there, really couldn't go there because I was working 3 jobs, and this guy, Willie, said, I want you to go with me. And I said, I can't. I got 3 jobs. I'm working for your dad with one of them. His dad owned Faultless Cleaners and stuff. And he said, no, you got to come. And at that time, I was working, one of the places I was working was Bigley's Ambulance Company. And he liked to come down and ride with the ambulance sometime when we can do it. And so during the war, you couldn't get new cars and stuff. But somehow, his folks got a new car just near the end of the thing. And they gave him their 39 Plymouth. It was just a cherry, but it was a dark green. And so we had just got a new ambulance. It was yellow, and he had it painted yellow. And he said, I want you to drive us over because I'm afraid I'll bang it. So I said, okay. So he said, everything is paid. And he was a big football player at Lincoln High. And he said, we're going to go with Ron Kea. And Ron Kea was a big wrestler at our school. and I couldn't even get off the bench of the lowest basketball thing. I was a 125-pound guy, and this is no kidding, and I hate to admit it. I couldn't even get off the bench to practice because the coach said, well, you're just not up to it. So, but the interesting thing, when I got over to Santa Cruz, these guys both said, the reason we brought you is we want you to get us some girls. And I said, what makes you think that? And he said, well, you just, you can. You just do it, and they like you. And so I said, okay. So I called up this one girl, Jeannie, and she was the editor of the San Jose High yearbook and a couple other things. And I got a lot of pictures in there because Jeannie would just put me in there. So I called her up and I said, can you get some girls? She said, sure, how many do you want? I said, 2. And so we went to pick them up. And I looked at it, and when I saw Muriel, I said, oh, that's the one for me. And I said, and Jeannie was going to sit with me because there was no chemistry, but there was love between us. Oh, God, she was wonderful. And so I'm watching, and in those days they had the 3-seaters. You could do 3 in front, 4 in the back. So here's these 2 big guys in there, and they're in the back with these girls. And the other girl was very attractive too, but I was just attracted to Muriel, just boom like that. So I was looking in the mirror, see what's going on, and we were going over to this outdoor dance pavilion in Santa Cruz. And so we went over there, and I said to myself, the next day I said, I'm going to get you. And so we went to they had all that kind of stuff down there, and this is a hard thing to believe. But I've got a picture to prove it, and it's an untouched photo. I was trying to show off, and so you can buy so many things with a basketball, 3 for $1 or something like that. And I've got this picture, and she's watching, and I just went like that, and this perfume just went in. So the next day, I saw her at the beach, and I said, come on, and let's do this. And so she went with me, and we did some things while we were over there. And then there were a lot of guys came over from the war, and they were at Bigley's. And some of them had their legs shot off. Some were younger than I, and they called me kid. And I took it because I knew they knew what they were talking about. And they said, kid, if you get serious with somebody, look at her mother. And I did, and her mother was perfect. And the way I knew, in those days, most women didn't drive cars. First of all, not a lot of people had cars. But the ones that did, they didn't let the women drive. And so she not only came in the car, but she had a brand new car. And I figured, this lady is something. And she turned out to be, an amazing person. Oh my God. And Muriel just like her. And I want to say one more thing. Muriel, at her school, Lincoln High, they had, like at our school, they had things like Khufu, and that they were kind of like a similar to the college when they have the, what are those alphabet Greek things,
Sororities.
And I'm half Greek, yeah. But anyway, over there they had service clubs, and theirs was Sue Khan. And Sue Khan had 40 girls in it, and they made a thing that, well, they would get together at school all the time. And I would go over there, sometimes we'd get a ride over and go over there and dance with them at lunchtime. Well, Sue Khan had all these girls, and Muriel turned out to be the one that would get him going, keep him going and stuff. And they made a rule that every first Saturday in June, they would get together. And they did this for 75 years.
Thank you for sharing all of your rich memories. And now we will watch a slideshow of Muriel's life prepared by the family. We can do that in the reception. Yeah. So as we close this portion of the celebration of life, I'd like to share a few instructions about where to go after the benediction. So the fellowship hall is where the reception will be, where you can share more of your stories with the family. You get there by exiting. You can exit that way, this way. Walk straight down the colonnade, make the first right, walk straight down, and you will find the fellowship hall. And the family would like you to sign their guest cards so that they can know who has been here. And now I'd like to share this benediction or blessing that is adapted from a poem called Blessing the Body by Jan Richardson. We have many cell phones blessing us today. This blessing takes one look at you, and all it can say is holy. This blessing says holy hands, holy face, holy feet, holy smile, holy hugs, holy matching outfits sewed with love, holy cookies, casseroles baked with care, holy everything in between, holy even in memory loss, holy even when weary, in brokenness, holy, holy in delight, holy in distress, holy when being born, holy when we lay it down at the hour of our death. So friend, open your eyes. For one moment, see what this blessing sees. This blessing that knows how you have been formed and knit together in wonder and in love. Welcome this blessing that folds its hands in prayer when it meets you. Receive this blessing that wants to kneel in reverence before you. You who are a sacred sanctuary for the renewal and healing of this world. And so may the gift of Muriel's love, her hugs, her smile, her gifts, nourish us deeply and overflow from our hearts into this world, this day and every day. Amen.
the signs, we know you were here, and if you have any special thoughts about Mom, that would be great. So, thank you. We will see you all